Most people buy these fitness trackers and they never look at the data. Today, I would like to take you through how these fitness trackers can be helpful for your fitness goals and your fitness journey. So stick around and watch whole video to understand how to use your fitness tracker to its best capacity to help you to achieve your fitness goals. To begin with, I would like to share a few reasons why I personally like those fitness trackers, and I've been using them for the last decade. And I had a variety of them, but for me, one of the most important functions for these trackers is actually monitoring your sleep. Don't get me wrong, you don't need a watch to tell you that you had a shit night's sleep. However, there is few metrics that you can see from your watch, so it helps you to understand better how you feel on day-to-day basis. And few of those measurements that I normally look at is how long the total sleep was, because all of us, we need to aim for around 8 hours of sleep. And then the sleep quality itself, how much deep sleep you have, how much light sleep, how frequently you wake up, your heart rate through the sleep, and things like that. To give you an idea, one thing that I've really noticed with the sleep is that if I have a beer, a glass of wine, or any other alcoholic beverage, it normally leads to my heart rate being 5 to 10 beats higher during the sleep than it normally does, and my REM sleep is more disturbed. That was a great highlight for me to stop drinking alcohol, even at small amounts. I don't like drinking, but sometimes socially I will have a glass or two, and I did notice the pattern that it really wrecks with my sleep and my recovery. Another example why I really like those trackers is, as a personal trainer, I can look at my clients' activity based on the watch, so I have to rely a little bit less on them telling me about their day and actually look at the data, how their days look like with the activity and everything. Because let's be real, we all think that we're more active than we are, or we are eating less junk food than we do. The watch will not tell you what kind of junk food you will be eating, but in terms of activity, it can really highlight if you're fundamentally getting at least those 10,000 recommended steps that we should all get. And one of the great examples is I had a client who's a taxi driver. So basically he sits in the car all day and he's not doing that much activity beyond the gym, and his average step count on some days was 2,000 steps. And that's a clear indicator that we need to increase this client's activity, because there's only so much you would be able to take away from the diet. So I can see as a coach how active people are from day-to-day basis before we even start doing any strength training activities, because daily activity is extremely important factor if you have weight loss goals. So if we want to benefit from having those fitness trackers, we definitely need to use them and use the data that they expose us to. And that brings us on to actually tracking things that will change your behavior. As I said, as an example, with my taxi driver client, we realized that he's only doing 2,000 steps a day, and that is something that we definitely need to increase. So if we are looking at the steps and then you look at your watch, oh, I only done 3,000 steps today, that's a clear indicator that you need to change your behavior and increase your steps. Now, how you will do it, it will come in many different ways, shapes, and forms. You can walk to work if it's not that far. You can park your car further when you park at work, so you're getting some extra steps. You can choose to go upstairs instead of taking the lift. You walk to the school to pick up your kid. These all things will add up and contribute to those 10,000 daily steps. What it does for us, if our step count is very low, it will help to highlight lack of activity into actually being more active and getting more steps into the day. Another reason why these trackers can work very well is you being able to proactively see what's happening with your health. To give you an idea, when you're training a lot in the gym, let's say 5, 6, 7 times a week, your risk to overtraining increases significantly in comparison to someone who trains 2 or 3 times per week, because it's almost impossible to overtrain at 2 or 3 times per week. And one of those metrics that will help you to track the overtraining early on is your HRV. This is heart rate variability. And most of the fitness trackers that I've been using in the last 5 years, they did had those HRV tracking functions. And for example, your normal HRV, let's say it's somewhere average is at 50, and then you see it dropping down to 40 for like 3 days. That can be a good sign of overtraining, or maybe the sign that you're getting sick or you're not adequately recovering. So once you start seeing these things on your watch, on your app, you can start taking action and think about training a little bit less, maybe spending more time recovering, maybe doing some more relaxing activities that will help you to reduce stress. So the idea is to catch the overtraining a little bit earlier on. On the other hand, once you see that your HRV is coming up higher and you do feel quite good, that could be a sign for you to start pushing a little bit harder in the gym because you're recovering very well. It's an amazing tool that we all just need to use. And from my point of view, steps and sleep are very highly important. And most of these watches do have that function. Another good use of those fitness trackers is leveraging them for social and challenge type of scenarios. So for example, I really liked Apple Watch because on my Apple Watch, I could add few of my clients and few of my friends. So basically, you could choose to get notified when your client completes activity. And you can also set up like certain activity challenges. You can set up a certain step or activity challenge that you can do with your friends. So we used to play with that a little bit, setting up challenges, who is getting more steps in. And it's generally a fun way to try to increase your activity because let's be real, even if you're not competitive, you don't want to lose a step challenge. So you may make some more conscious decisions of getting the steps in. And I think this is brilliant because anything that helps people to be more active, I absolutely love the idea. But in order to keep us and help us to stay active, we need to use the features of those watches that we have, step counter, friendly challenges. And some watches have challenges and programs themselves that you can just follow along and make progress on your fitness. But let's be real, no app can fix your bad habits and bad routines. So even if you use tracker, make sure that you're taking action. If you're just looking at the data and you're not making any conclusions how to adjust your lifestyle or how to stay more active, then you will not benefit from those trackers. So using the data and making an advantage of it to change some of your habits and routines, that's where true magic happens with those watches. The magic you're looking for is in the work that you're avoiding. So if you need to change the habits, that tracker can only highlight some poor activity habits while you will still have to take action and change your habits. And in my personal opinion, this is a great tech. However, it's not 100% accurate and you cannot 100% trust its data. For example, your heart rate and your calorie algorithms, they might not be necessarily as accurate. And just be really careful if you're using the calorie data for weight loss, and try to make sure that you are weighing in yourself on a week-to-week basis. And if you're following the calorie recommendations, if you're aiming to lose weight, you would be in the calorie deficit from what it seems on the watch. But when you track with another app, your weight is not going down. So that means that your watch can be overestimating your calorie expenditure, because at the end of the day, if they're not going to make you feel good in some way, they're not going to sell. So manufacturers put some algorithms which are not necessarily realistic to what people are expanding in their activities. When I went from Apple Watch to Sunto, Apple Watch was showing a little bit higher resting heart rate for me than this watch does. And also it was showing a significantly higher HRV. So when I changed to Sunto watch and my HRV dropped from 120 to 40, I was like, what the hell is happening? But that just highlights that these devices are not 100% accurate and you shouldn't rely on them 100%. If your goal is weight loss, make sure you're tracking scales. This is just a tool to help you to measure your activity and recovery and rest, but take it with a massive handful of salt, because there is great people like Andy Galpin, who wrote a book with one of the running coaches, I can't remember his name, about how all that technology is up to 40% inaccurate. So keep that in mind. And if you found this video helpful, YouTube thinks that you'll find this one helpful too. Let me know down in the comments what fitness tracker do you have and what functions do you use. See you in the next one.